In the beginning of my trading career, I was extremely unprofitable, and very few traders are able to pinpoint the exact moment where they went from losing money to then becoming a profitable trader. However, for me, I can tell you the exact day and the exact thing that took me from consistently losing money to now taking well over $200,000 in payouts over the past year. But before we get into that, my name is Nick. I'm a former construction worker turned full-time day trader. If you want to learn how to escape the 9-to-5 life and achieve some kind of financial freedom, mentorship and Discord link are down in the description below. And if you want the best odds of success, you're going to want to use the best prop firm possible. And that, as of right now, is Lucid. And right now they're running a crazy 50% off discount for all of their accounts across the board. Use code DROBO to get 50% off at checkout. Now let's learn what took me from consistently losing money to actually figuring out how to take payouts. Okay, so first things first, I just wanted to go over some of my payouts just to establish some credibility with you guys. So as you guys can see right here, this is my Lucid dashboard. This is the actual website right here. This isn't a screenshot. And you can see right here, there's about $35,000 in payouts from Lucid. And I only recently started trading with them. So that's pretty nice to see that in a pretty short amount of time, we were able to get $35,000 from Lucid. And then if I move over to TopStep, TopStep was the original platform that I was using, the original prop firm. So this is where a majority of my payouts had come from because this is the original one I used. I started having a little bit of technical issues with them recently, so I stopped using them as my main prop firm. However, TopStep and Lucid are both extremely reputable and good prop firms, and I highly recommend using both of them if you aren't as of right now. So if we look here on this page, this is going to be $50,000 of payouts. There's another $50,000 right there, and then this one here is 45 as well. So just on those two prop firms, we've approximately like 180,000 in payouts. And then with some other prop firms like My Funded Futures, Take Profit Trader, Apex, and I might be missing another one here or there, but I've taken payouts with them, just not as much. And then at the same time, these are the two best prop firms, so I really like to highlight them specifically. And these are also the ones that I've made the most money from. And there's no coincidence there. The best ones are the ones that give you the best odds of actually making money. They treat their traders well, stuff like that. So Lucid, TopStep, they're the two best ones right now. They're the ones that I've determined to be the best through a ton of trial and error with all the different other prop firms. They give the best prices, the best payout structure, stuff like that. So generally speaking, if your goal is profitability in trading, picking the correct prop firm is going to be one of the most important things that you can do. Because if you're trading with a prop firm that has a ton of rules and restrictions, it's obviously going to be significantly harder to take a payout. So Lucid and TopStep both follow a very similar model of there's no rules to the trading, no consistency rules, nothing like that. The only thing that you have to abide by is you need 5 days of $150 profit or more in order to take a payout. So extremely simple to trade on. You don't have to worry about consistency rules or breaking this rule or that rule. So extremely simple to trade on. That is always going to be the best and most profitable prop firm that you can trade on, is one that is very simple and doesn't have a ton of rules. So Lucid and TopStep, highly recommend. And these are the ones that I've taken a ton of money in payouts with. So I can't recommend them enough. If you aren't already using one or both of these in your trading in some way, definitely look into it. So now moving on from that and getting into the actual thing that changed my trading forever, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I didn't know it at the time, but what I was about to do was going to change everything for me. So in November of last year, after struggling in the beginning of my prop firm journey, the same as everyone does, because obviously when you're new to something, you're not going to understand how anything operates. You're going to have a ton of trial and error going on. And the goal for me was to try to figure out the best way to trade prop firms. Obviously, same thing that everyone else is trying to do. In my wide variety of attempts at trying to figure out how to make prop firms work, one of the things that I was doing was backtesting. And prior to this specific day, I had backtested before, but just not very much, and also not really experimenting with a bunch of different strategies or anything like that. I was kind of just going based off of what I had already known and what I was trying to implement currently in the market. But this day was different because I was completely fed up with my strategy and completely fed up with the way that things were going with prop firms and me losing money every week. So what I decided this time was to try something completely different from what I was used to doing. So on this specific day late last year, I had opened my TradeZella account and got into a backtesting session. And basically what I did was I took all of the different bits and pieces of knowledge that I had attained over the past however long it had been from the beginning of my trading career up until that point. I took all of these different pieces of knowledge and compiled the ones that made the most sense to me together and implemented that into a strategy along with a little bit more aggressive style of trading as well. And my main reasoning behind doing this was because of two different theories I had. The first one being that people overcomplicate trading. A lot of times this is people you see on social media and YouTube, gurus and stuff like that. It seems like the logic they follow is that if the strategy is more complicated, then it must be better. It's more exclusive, and only the best of the best are going to be able to figure out how to use this extremely intricate strategy. And what I wanted to test is if a simple strategy could see as much or more success as an extremely or overly complicated one. And then the other thing I wanted to test was whether or not I was sizing way too small and trading way too passively to ever see success on a prop firm account. And this is another thing I often see pushed on YouTube, social media, stuff like that. People are advocating for risking 1% of your account, or they're advocating for risking $100 per trade or 150, 200, stuff like that. And this was also exactly what I was doing up until that point. I would risk between $150 and $250 per trade. And best case scenario, I would have a couple $100 profit by the time a trade worked out perfectly for me. And in theory, risking extremely small amounts of money to make potentially very large amounts of money sounds like a great plan and a great strategy. And if you're able to make that work, then that's obviously the best way to possibly do it. Have extremely little risk and have extremely large upside. However, what I was finding out is that the success I would see on my prop firm accounts would be so small that I would never be able to successfully take a payout. Or if I ever was able to get a payout using these small risk and small reward model, it would take a very long time to do so, and it would be extremely long periods of time between payouts as well. So the other thing I wanted to test is if you risk significantly more than what the average person or the average teacher tells you to do on YouTube and social media, is that going to have a positive or negative effect on payouts? Because in the end, the only thing that matters is the cost of an account is approximately $100, and then a payout is going to be whatever it may be, $2,000, $3,000, depending on the firm and depending on the account type, and also just depending on the actual standing of your account. So you're not always going to be able to take a max payout. In a perfect world, you would be able to, but there's obviously going to be certain circumstances to where you can't always take a maximum payout. So basically the risk is very small and the reward of a payout is very big. So if you can figure out a way to optimize that to where you're taking payouts pretty consistently and you're not buying an absurd amount of accounts to where you're spending more than you're making, then at that point you have found out a path to profitability on prop firms. So on that day, this is the exact thought process that I went in with, and this is still the exact same strategy that I trade with now when I do backtesting. So I go on TradeZella, I create a new session, you name it whatever you want to name it, and then obviously symbol, I'm going to go to NQ. I'm going to pick my backtesting date, and the way I'd like to do it, I like to just go to the same point in time that we're at right now of just the year prior. So right now it's June of 2026, so I'm just going to go to June of 2025. And as you can see right there, there it is. We're going to get started at 9 a.m. just so we are before the New York session, because that's the session that I trade most often. And then the ending date, we can just set to whatever time in the future. You don't have to go through the entire session, but just if you want to have it open and trade later. So we have 365 days right here where we can backtest trading with live actual market results. This is what actually happened on these exact days, candle by candle. So super useful tool right here. And from this, with the power of backtesting, you can figure out your strategy's approximate win rate, how much money you can expect to make from prop firms specifically. You can figure out your evaluation pass rate. You can figure out a ton of information from this, and at the same time you can also improve on your strategy and try to make your current strategy better, or you can test out a different strategy. The possibilities with backtesting are endless. It's such a great tool to have. It's one of the few things that I recommend spending money on, because currently I don't know of any free backtesting software, and the subscription for TradeZella is relatively cheap. It's like $30 a month or something like that, and it by far has made the biggest difference in my actual trading when it comes to live markets on prop firm accounts. So the exact way that I backtest, and the way that I have been doing it ever since that day, is I'll create my session. I will start on the higher time frame. I'll start with the 4-hour, and I'll just get a general idea of what is going on with price. So you can see on the 4-hour chart, we're in a very clear uptrend. So now I'm going to start zooming into the 1 hour, because as we zoom in, the information becomes more relevant for the exact time that we're at. When you look at the 4-hour, you're going to see information from the past couple of weeks, even months sometimes, depending on how far you zoom out. When you go to the 1 hour, that's then shrunk down to the past couple days. And then when you go down to the 15-minute, that's much more recent and more relevant information as well. So as you can see here, now if we look at the 1 hour, you can see we're entering a little bit of a downtrend. And then the 15-minute is going to reflect that as well in this specific circumstance. The 15-minute and the 1 hour are both going to be in a pretty solid downtrend. So what we can take away from this, on the extremely high time frame, we are in an uptrend. Over the past couple months, we've been uptrending. However, over the past couple days, we have been in a downtrend. So these are two very relevant points of information that we have to consider when we're about to take our trade. So factoring in everything that we've been looking at, you can see in terms of the uptrend, we are at a relative discount in price. You know, we're not at one of the peaks. We've seen significant pullback in terms of the 4-hour trend. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind why longing would make sense right here. So now when we go to the 1 hour, you can see a little bit of the same thing. Again, when you zoom out, it's going to be a larger uptrend. But more recently, what's been going on is a downtrend. And in terms of the downtrend, we are not at a good price to be shorting right now. We are at the very bottom. This is the lowest price has been in a very long time, which to me signifies another reason for price to continue moving upward in the future. And then when you look at the 15-minute, it's basically the same information that you're getting right there. We're in a downtrend. However, we're at the most expensive part of that downtrend, meaning we are not getting a good price to short. We're getting basically the worst price to short as of right now. So all of these things considered, in this specific instance, I'm going to be looking for longs. Okay, that's what I've determined from my analysis of the market. You might have seen something different. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion or their own ideas when trading. You don't have to agree with every single thing that I say, but in this specific instance, I'm going to be looking longs, and I just gave you my full reasoning as to why I'm going to be looking for longs. So now that we've analyzed the higher time frames, I'm now going to go to the 1 minute time frame. This is going to be my execution time frame. I'm going to be looking for a reason to enter in a long. This is going to be based on trend. This is going to be based on rejection candles. This is going to be based on if price is in a discount or not, everything like that. And along with that, I'm also going to keep in mind that 9:30 is about to roll around here shortly. So that is going to have a heavy impact on price as well. Ideally, I wouldn't like to hold trades through 9:30 or trade the minutes around 9:30 as well. I would like to wait for price to settle down a little bit because the randomness of market open oftentimes will ruin your trades. So with that in mind, I'm just going to play out the next couple candles and see what price is doing and see if it makes any sense to enter in a long anytime soon. So as you can see, we've already started to break structure to the upside right here, which is going to be a good thing for me. However, it's 9:28 right now, so I'm not looking to enter a trade right before market open. So we're going to let this play out. This is the market open right here. You can see price is opening down, and it just continues to sell off. So at this point, I'm not looking to enter in a trade. There's been no reason for me to enter a long up until this point. So I'm just going to keep letting price do its thing, and hopefully at some point, we're going to see a change in direction to where we are now uptrending on the low time frame. But until then, I'm not going to be taking a trade. So as we wait for more structure to develop, we're just looking for a reason to enter. And now at this point, we have started to see higher highs and higher lows being formed. So now this is our first chance, in my opinion, to enter in a long at the current state. So what I'm going to do is wait for a reason to enter. And one of the things that I like to enter on is based on hammer candles. So as you can see right there, this is a hammer candle, rejection candle, whatever you want to call it. Price very briefly tried to sell off and was instantly rejected. So that's one of the reasons why I like to enter. Along with this, we're in an uptrend. So the trend is in our favor. We have a candle that just rejected selling off pretty hard. So based on this, I'm going to enter in my trade and we're going to see what happens here. So I'm going to set my stop loss at this prior low that we have established right here, because if this low gets taken out at that point, my trend is gone. So if the trend decides to continue going downward, then obviously I don't want to look for a long during a downtrend. So I'm going to have that set up just like that. And then I'm going to set my price target to I believe that's a 9:30 open. Yes. So this is the high from the 9:30 open right here. Trying to be realistic with my stop losses and my take profits. I don't want to be stopped out instantly. And then at the same time, I also want to take profit at a point that I think can reasonably be hit during the current session. So this is a approximately 70 point move, 80 point move, something like that. perfectly reasonable for the price action that we're seeing right now. My stop loss is approximately 30 points as well, which is good. So I'm going to risk, and then I'm going to adjust my stop loss just like that. So now we're risking 1250 to make 3,300. This is a good sizing for a funded account because with funded accounts, the goal is to make $4,000 before you lose 2,000. So if this trade hits, I'll basically be ready for a payout at that rate. And if I don't, I'll still have another chance to take some good trades. My account, I'm not risking my entire account right here. And at the same time, I'm giving myself a realistic chance to take a payout based off of basically one single trade. So we're going to enter in here and see how this plays out. Okay, so in this specific instance, the actual trading day ended at 1 p.m. However, when it picked back up at 6 p.m., we instantly hit profit. So this was a bank holiday and I wasn't really paying attention to that. But anyway, regardless of the actual result, I'm just breaking down exactly how I do it. And then after this trade plays out, I would then hop into the next day and then just repeat this process over and over and over again until I get significant results to where I can either figure out if I'm going to make money trading prop firms, if I'm going to pass evals at a good rate, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is with trading in prop firms, you can figure it out through backtesting and through running these simulations over and over again. And that's basically it. That's my entire backtesting process summed up right there. And that one day of backtesting my new strategy and testing out my theories of trading was the single difference maker in me going from consistently losing to consistently taking payouts on prop firms. So you should be able to take this information and implement it in your own trading, and hopefully you guys get some good results from that.